All right, we talked about how we went to Lakeside Speedway last night. And, it was a great show, good car count, none better than the B mods. And a guy that I've known since he was 8 years old, when his dad took me under his wing when I was only 21 years old. And, oh, by the way, little Ed Noll was only 8. This is in 1981. And little Ed Noll was a great driver at the young age of 15. His dad started him out at a young age. He won a lot of races at Savannah and Riverside, picking up championships, I think like 30 wins. And then all of a sudden he disappears, and we don't see him for years. And lo and behold, he comes back, and last night picks up his first win since way back in the day, and he joins us down the show. Ed Noll Jr. How you doing, Ed?
I'm doing pretty good, Scott. Thank you.
Dude, how about that win last night? That had to feel pretty good after all these years. You knew what it took to win. You've been there. You've done it. You've won championships back in the day. But, you always wonder if you're going to get that next win. And so many years in between, you had to wonder. But last night you did it, bud.
Well, yeah, I was real happy to make that happen last night. I told my wife, I said, when I was a kid, quite a few races I won, and they came pretty regularly, and I kind of took advantage of that and maybe took it for granted. Now, I definitely won't do that again, because that's definitely a special feeling.
Well, let's talk about that race last night. I know there was one moment there when you had to come up on a lap car. He was like a dart without feathers. Just about took you out coming up off of turn 4. Just take us through that race last night a little bit.
We made a few changes, and usually I'm always a tick off, it seems like. And last night it felt like everything was perfect. My good friend Jason, and we just really worked hard on that car. And last night I could have drove it with a couple fingers. It felt that great. I wasn't really used to that. I've been, just these modifieds and these smaller tires just seem to be a little different than what I've ever felt before. So the lap car did scare me, though. I did kind of jump a little.
That was a little pucker factor right there for sure, Ed. No doubt about it. When you talked about the changes on your car, me and you talked a little bit on the phone last night after the race, and you said you put your trust in your guy, but you just didn't know. I mean, when you make dramatic changes to a car like that, you kind of a little nervous going into opening night, I would say.
I was very nervous.
Yeah.
Very nervous, yeah.
Yeah. Ed, how many years was it in between when you last raced? I know you said you run a late model a little bit for a guy, just a few races, and you run a stock car a couple of times. But when was the last time you got in the seat before you came back in the B mod?
22 years.
22 years.
22 years, yeah.
Wow. What made you want to come back, Ed?
I did motorcycles a lot, drag race stuff, and I really enjoyed that. And when I started doing that, it was easier and it was a little more affordable, and for me to start that. And I always enjoyed motorcycles, and I enjoyed the circle track racing a ton. And I always thought about it, and just over the years, people are talking, and they're like, you think you could still drive with him? You think you could do this or do that? And over conversation, I looked at my wife one night. And I just said, I can't sit around. I'm ready to go racing. And so, just with the great help of people and giving me a good hand, and we did it more on a dare and wanting to know if I could, get in a race car and be, at least ways run toward the front. That was my goal.
Dude, you got to feel a little safer in that car. There's video out there of you riding that motorcycle. You're kind of crazy on that thing, man. I'm sure glad to see you in a race car other than that motorcycle.
Yeah, the motorcycles was very enjoyable, and I've been 750s at 195 miles an hour with no wheelie bar, street tire bike, and I weighed 254 pounds.
No, I know it. It's well documented. You know how to ride a motorcycle. You remember back in the? Do you remember when your dad lived around the corner from my cousin David? My cousin David and Billings, they had their drag bikes. Do you remember back in those days?
I do. I exactly remember that. Yep, right by the school.
Yeah. I know that they're sweet times. And growing up around your dad, he was a pretty accomplished race car driver himself. You really didn't have much choice but to get into this game, did you?
My dad was very good, and I think he's built hundreds of them. And no, he was. It was great to have him to show me the way, and he definitely he's a little brass, but he definitely could drive a race car, and I'm real thankful for him and all that stuff that he did for me, when I was younger.
Yeah, that's good.
Ed Noll joining us last night, Speed Mod winner at Lakeside Speedway, out of the race car for that period of time. That's a long, long time. Just were there other times during that period where you were tempted to get back, but you just didn't do it? I mean, that's a long time in between rides.
It does. And I always thought about races. We went to the races. I always wished I could be in a race car again. It takes a lot. I got a really successful family, really successful business, and we don't like to sit around. And I was nervous that I'd get back in the race car and I'd be lap traffic. That's what I was worried about. And I just in my mind, I thought I could still be a front runner, and just went in one ride, this first one this season, and the car handling as good as it did. And I just, hopefully there's many more to come. But as of right now, I just feel like I'm not one of those guys that try and come back and then get people's way. And if it would have started out like that, I'd have been really bummed last year. But we did have good runs, and I just couldn't quite put it together. Things would always happen and not go my way. But thank the Lord, and everything is looking up for me.
Were you more nervous getting back in the car this time than you were when you got in the car for the very first time?
Oh, yeah. When I was 15 years old, I wasn't scared of nothing, right?
Right. Do I remember well? Yeah.
It does.
It was funny. I was talking about that up in the media room last night. I said, one thing about Little Ed, and I don't know if many people call you Little Ed anymore, but it's
only the old timers.
It's only the old timers.
You're an old timer.
But I said the one thing about Little Ed, he was always stood on the gas. You've always had a knack for that, bud.
Well, I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Are you? I mean, at 15, I mean, you're not afraid of anything.
No.
But the feel behind the wheel of a race car at your age now, I mean, do you feel anything different than when you were 15? Even though you're not as aggressive as you were back then. You couldn't be.
No, my testosterone levels are low. I can tell you that. I'm over 40 now, and I think really having the experience I had when I was a youngster, driving cars that really didn't always handle the greatest. You couldn't turn a few bolts here and there and make them change a lot. I went from that to this, and I'm a lot more patient than I've ever been. I used to bend up some stuff back in the days, and it was, you always, back then, almost anybody remembers that that's been around racing. If you finished first or second in the feature one week, you automatically started in the tail the next week. So there were many nights that we drove them up through there, and they didn't look too good when we got done. And so that's a big change. But my patient levels now is a heck of a lot better. And if I was having to start in the back every week, I don't think I have my patience.
He was talking about, Kirk, I don't know if you're familiar, that was the Gene Claxton rule that he was talking about at Riverside. The top two finishers from the week before had to start tailback no matter what you did in your heat race the next week.
Yeah. Well, Gene Claxton was the name I was going to bring up my next question. I mean, to outrun a guy like Gene Claxton coming back, how special is that for you?
No, he was my hero, and I think he was everybody's hero.
Everybody's, right.
Era.
Yeah.
Everybody. Mm-hmm. And I used to drive him crazy. Every Saturday night, I'd go down there and sit in his car, and I'd tug on him and put his helmet on. I'd do all that stuff. So it's really nice running around him, and I find myself, I don't know, I just find myself sometimes at awe whenever I'm side by side with him, especially last night when he challenged me for the lead.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And when you see a guy like him, that's when you really got to be in control of your emotions. You don't want to get too excited when you see that 42 pull up next to you.
Yeah, I guess a lot of guys maybe, some of these guys are real young, and I don't think they really know who he is, but to me, there's still a little bit of intimidation factor when you're around him, me.
No doubt.
Hey, Ed, last night I noticed you had a little bit of smoke coming out of your car. Did you notice that
at
all?
It got a little worse.
Did you get a little worried? I noticed it, as on the roof you could see it quite well. On the video we're watching, you can see it as you're coming out of some of the turns, a little bit of smoke coming out there. Did you notice that, and what was that?
I didn't notice this, but I noticed it on the video, and my guys were really talking about it. But I'll tell you, I have been horrible about this crate. I have never changed the valve spring. I've run it really hard, and I've not done a lot of maintenance. So that's something I'm going to look into this week. I think that we have changed the rear end a little bit. I was hoping that it was the tire maybe barely touching the spring.
That's what it kind of looked like to me.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping.
Ed, are you going to run for the championship this year? Or are you just going to
Yeah, I like Lakeside. Yeah, we do everything we can to make them, to try and make all the races. And yeah, that would be great. I mean, I finished second last year. I was real happy. And, so there's only one more spot. And yeah, that would be wonderful. But I don't put the cart in front of the horse. I got a family to take care of. And you know, we do this together. And we still do it as fun. I'm never going to be a superstar. Those days are over. Mm-hmm. So we just do it for the fun. And since I just relax, just have a good time, it just seems to come to you. So yeah, I'd love to have that happen.
Any place else but Lakeside, or are you just going to concentrate on Lakeside?
We went to I-35 already once this year, and I'd like to do a little Saturday racing. But I got a 4-year-old that's just getting ready to turn 5, and he is in a go-kart, and he's going to get in it for the second time today and this afternoon. So I'm really concentrating. That's going to be my superstar, I hope for.
Wow. Like father, like son.
He is already, we've only taken him to one race. He didn't spin out. He was really good, and I was really proud. And so today is his day. We're going today, and he's just pumped up.
I think we're looking at him in Victory Lane last night down there, so that's cool. You
awesome.
know, it's funny that you bring that up, Ed, and I, not to go too much into my relationship with you guys, but I remember back in the day down in Northmore when your dad had Riverview Auto Service right next to Tony's Radiator. And your dad, I was working. Let me just say this little story real quick. I was working on my old Nova. You probably remember it. And I was working. My grandmother. I lived with my grandma at the time, and she lived down behind Tasty Bread factory down there. And the only place I had to work on my car was on my trailer in the RV parking lot. It never came off the trailer during the week. I'd go down there in the RV parking lot, work on it. Your dad realized that I was doing that, and he said, bring that car down here, and in the evening when we're done working, we'll help you get it a little bit better, and I'll help you with it. And your dad took me under his wing, let me race out of his shop for that entire year. And I'm going to tell you, between your dad, Dean Merriman, Tony Marcelli, Wendy Marcelli, who was racing at that time, those were great times and great memories back there in the early 80s over at Riverview Auto Service, wasn't it, bud?
It was a lot of memories, that's for sure. That's where I cut my teeth right there. So he was very helpful, and he's not his health ain't that great anymore, but he does make it to the races a little bit now and then, and I know he was real excited to see you just maybe a few months ago. He did call me and tell me he saw you, and he was pretty excited about that. So you're one of the ones that, when we do have conversation, you came up quite a few times.
Well, you know what? Your dad built a car for me and helped me, and I owe him a lot because I might have got out of the sport, and who knows, there might not even be a Racing Boys today if it wasn't for your dad and what his support that he gave me. And again, getting to know Tony Marcelli too, that was a big deal with the Tony's Radiator right there. That was just great. And there's a few stories I can't even tell right here on the radio, to be honest.
I was going to say, most of the stories we can't tell, they're not really radio worthy.
Right. Well, they might be radio worthy.
They're radio worthy, but not live.
I might have to throw somebody under the bus if I did that. We don't want to do that. So, Ed, congratulations on the win, bud. I am so proud of you. I'm so proud of what you've done because, listen, you've had some peaks and valleys in your life, and you've overcame those, and then you're a great place. Now, talk your lawn business, right? Talk about that a little bit.
Noll's Lawn Care. I've been doing it since I was 16. Part-time, and I always had a job, I was an automotive painter, and but it just took over, my early adulthood, and it just has been wonderful ever since. And so luckily I got, my family. It's all family orientated, so there's nobody on someone's property that ain't my family, and so we take pride in that, and it's always my name that I'm trying to make look good and do good for people, and that's why we've been so successful. And like I say, thank God, and I'm just really blessed and really happy.
You know what? I see your truck running around, and if I'm not mistaken, I think I saw one of your vans that said voted the best lawn care in the Northland. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. There's a voting every year that takes place in a local newspaper, and they just people that just everyone's residents gets the newspaper, and there's a little thing in there, and you have to take it out. You actually have to mark on it. You actually have to mail it in, and it's really nice because we've won that quite a few years in a row.
Yeah,
it's really nice that a lot of people wouldn't take the time to take something out of the newspaper and actually mail it for 45 or 50 cents. They wouldn't take it and do that, and people do that, and I really appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, it's not like it's just one person's opinion. It's a vote from the customers and the people that are out there that use lawn service. So that's good. Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Well, I know I need a little lawn service because I got some grass that I can't get to grow. So I'm going to be giving you a call about that. Ed's, again, congratulations, buddy. I appreciate it. Taking the time, and man, I hope that we'll talk to you more in the future and go get that championship. It'd be nice to win it after 20-some years.
I sure would like that. I appreciate your guys' time today. Thanks for having me.
All right, Ed. Thanks so much again, bud.
Congratulations.
All right.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right.
Hey, you bet.
Little Ed Noll, as us old timers call him. I don't know how to take the old timers. It's what the old timers call him, he says.
You
Big
shook
win.
your head a couple times when he said he was over 40 now. That bother you?
Dude, I remember when he was 8 years old. And let me tell you something about little Ed when he was 8 years old.
I can understand.
He was
Here?
a pistol. Is that say anything?
That's what I've been hearing the last
Let
couple
me
days.
tell you, that kid was bouncing off the walls. He was wide open.
High
Wide open all the
energy.
time, huh?
High energy like nobody else. Let me tell you.